This man went to sleep on a Monday and woke up having lived 100 years. Doctors said it was impossible. But what he remembered was even worse. This really happened. His name was Elias. He was just a normal guy. Normal job, normal life, living in a small apartment. Nothing special ever happened to him until the night everything broke. The city was quiet. Rain traced paths down his window pane, and a strange stillness filled the air. Elias felt a sense of dread he couldn't explain, a feeling that the ordinary world he knew was about to unravel completely. And then he heard the ticking. It wasn't his alarm clock. It was deeper, more resonant, like the slow, heavy turn of a cosmic gear. He drifted off to sleep, the sound echoing in his mind, and when he woke up, something was terribly wrong. His body felt heavy. His joints ached with an unfamiliar stiffness. He lifted his hands in front of his face. They were not his own. They were wrinkled, covered in age spots, the hands of an old man. Stumbling out of bed, he made his way to the bathroom mirror. The face that stared back was a stranger. Deep lines carved pathways of time around eyes that held a century of sorrow. It was his face, but aged by 60, 70 years. He gasped, his breath catching in his throat. The reflection did the same. It was him. He had gone to sleep, a young man, and woken up ancient. The ticking was gone, replaced by a profound silence. Panic set in. He tried to rationalize it, to tell himself it was a dream, a nightmare from which he would soon wake. He splashed cold water on his face, but the old man in the mirror remained. The apartment was the same, yet different. Dust seemed thicker. The light felt dimmer, as if years had settled on every surface. He spent the day in a confused daze, his mind reeling. When night finally fell, exhausted and terrified, he collapsed into bed. Sleep was his only escape. But it wasn't an escape, it was a trap. Each time Elias slept, he plunged deeper into this accelerated life. Years, sometimes decades, passed in a single night. He opened his eyes one morning to the cry of a baby. His baby, a woman he now knew as his wife, smiled at him, her face filled with love. He had a family. He lived through the joy of watching his children grow, their first steps, their first words, graduations, weddings. He felt the profound love of a husband and a father, a life unfolding in fleeting, dreamlike sequences. He held his daughter's hand as he walked her down the aisle. He cradled his first grandchild, marveling at the cycle of life. But with the joy came the inevitable sorrow. He saw his hair turn from gray to white. He attended his parents' funerals, the grief sharp and real. Then he stood by his wife's bedside, holding her hand one last time as she slipped away. The pain was unbearable. He watched his children grow old themselves, their faces mirroring the lines on his own. He was living a full, rich, heartbreaking life, all within the span of a few nights. He was aging, loving, and losing, all at a speed that shattered his soul. Then came the true horror. The worst part wasn't the aging, the aches, the loss. It was the creeping, sickening realization that none of it was real. These memories, these feelings, this entire century of existence was a phantom. A cruel play being acted out in the theater of his mind while his real body lay sleeping. The love he felt for his phantom wife, the pride for his phantom children, the crushing grief of their loss, it was all an elaborate illusion. But the emotions were real. The pain was real. He was a prisoner in his own consciousness, forced to experience a lifetime of love and then have it all ripped away, revealed as a lie. He would wake up in his silent apartment, the ghosts of his family fading with the morning light, leaving him utterly alone with 100 years of memories that never happened. He screamed, a silent, desperate scream, into the darkness of his room, the shadows swallowing him whole as he grappled with a loneliness so profound it threatened to erase him. On the 7th night, he felt it. His body, now frail and ancient in this dream life, was giving out. His heart, which had beaten through a century of phantom joys and sorrows, began to slow. He was over 100 years old. He lay in his bed, not the one in his small apartment, but a bed in a quiet room, surrounded by the ghosts of his memories. He felt a strange sense of peace. There was no more fear, no more confusion. He had lived, he had loved, he had lost. Even if it was an illusion, the feelings had been true to him. He accepted it. He accepted death. He closed his eyes, felt his heart stop, and surrendered to the final, peaceful darkness. Elias woke up. His eyes snapped open. He was in his bed, his own bed, in his small, quiet apartment. Light morning light streamed through the window. He bolted upright, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked at his hands. They were young, smooth, his. He scrambled to the mirror. The face staring back was his own, unlined, youthful, the face of the man who had gone to sleep just 1 week ago. A clock on his bedside table showed that only 7 days had passed, a single week, but in his mind he carried the weight of 100 years. He could still feel the phantom touch of his wife's hand, hear the echo of his children's laughter, and see the faces of loved ones long gone. It was all there, vivid and raw. He went to the hospital. He told the doctors everything. They ran every test imaginable. Brain scans, physical exams, psychological evaluations. They found nothing. No brain damage, no signs of aging, no physiological explanation for what he had experienced. To them, he was a perfectly healthy young man, suffering from a complex and vivid delusion. They offered him therapy, medication. But Elias knew what he had lived through was more real than anything the doctors could measure. He quit his job. He sold his possessions. He gave away everything he owned. And then, one day, he simply vanished. He walked away from the life he knew, a ghost in his own timeline. Some say Elias is still out there, a young man with the soul of a centenarian, wandering the world. They say he's searching, not for answers, but for a way to feel again, to make new memories that can stand against the weight of the 100-year life he already lived and lost. Because once you've lived 100 years, nothing feels real again. Would you choose to forget or remember? Let me know your thoughts below. And if you enjoy mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.